Hi, everyone, and welcome to today's aec+tech talk session, AI and Plan Review in AEC. I'm Niknaz, and I'm very excited for today's conversation. So, as we all know, while AI is rapidly entering AEC workflows, plan review still remains as one of the very manual and time-consuming processes, very dependent on repetitive checking, coordination, and code validation. So, what parts of plan review can realistically be streamlined with AI today, and where does human expertise still remain essential? So, this is the question that we are going to discuss today. So, we are joined by three wonderful speakers. I'm going to just briefly introduce them and then we'll let them talk more about themselves. So, we have Colton Johnson with us today, PE, Principal Engineer at Flint Engineering Company. Hi, Colton. Welcome and thanks for joining. We have Akash Prasad, co-founder and CEO at InspectMind AI and ProStruct. Hi, Akash. Good to see you. Welcome.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Of course. And we have Simon G. Solorio, PE, President at Solorio Inc. Great to meet you, Simon. Thank you for joining us. So thank you all, and thanks to our audience. So as always, it's going to be a discussion. So please feel free to drop your questions anytime during this conversation. So to start, I'm going to ask our speakers about your background. So please introduce yourself, tell us about you, your background, and the type of project and workflow that you work on. And please tell us how plan review currently shows up in your day-to-day work. So we can start from Colton and then Akash and then Simon.
Awesome. Yeah. Colton Johnson here. So started Flint Engineering about 3 years ago. And so from that current background, we work on delegated design items down to the bolts and connections up to retail, large office complexes. And so at this point, we're seeing a lot of drawings and documents produced. And so it's kind of our job to say, from a whole organization standpoint, how do we help create the correct process, and then to create systems and automations. And then on top of that, how do we introduce AI into that process? And so Akash and his team have been really helpful, and it's interesting to see that product grow, and also to get to see some of that back and forth between us of what we need on the practical design side, safety side, how do we make this implement for public health and wellness. And so, yeah, that's kind of been our process so far with AI in it.
Wonderful. Thank you. Akash.
Yeah, so we built this because we saw this need in the industry. For example, my dad's a structural engineer. Main role that he plays on projects is kind of reviewing it as the engineer of record, is the main principal. So I see how hard it is, especially when there's a volume of projects. There's a lot of information, coordination between different disciplines, different codes. It just and that even just it's hard enough on just like a smaller mid-sized project, and it just grows exponentially on bigger projects. So we really saw this as a very universal pain point in the industry, and turned out to be right. So we're seeing good usage from across the industry.
Wonderful. Great. Thank you. Simon.
Yes, hi. I'm a structural engineer. We do work in Southern California and Southern Texas. I've been a structural engineer for 35 years. Always trying to keep up with the latest in technology. I started using InspectMind with reports. That's how they started. That's how I got to meet Akash. And then they introduced InspectMind for the plan reviews. And so we've used it for the past few months, and it's very helpful, just trying to coordinate between all the disciplines. Even though we're just structural, there's always coordination, and just reviewing our notes and our details and our plans. We get able to provide a better product to the owners.
Wonderful. Great. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you all again for joining today. So I would like to start by this question from Colton. So, with all the advancements in BEAM and cloud collaboration and AI and all these technologies, so plan, review, check process is still very manual. So why do you think that's the case? And why historically it's been so difficult to automate?
I know that for us and our team, and when we hire on a new intern or someone full time, the first thing we do is we have to really sit down and say, construction documents as a whole is a language, and so basically you are learning a new language, and then so the way that the information is presented, what is required, where it's located, what is the industry standards, those are all things that are unique, and even to the different types of projects, us being in industrial work or commercial or even large residential, each one has its own specific feel and flavor based on the way that the industry and the contractors like to see information, and then even from a liability standpoint, what's required of us. So I think that's probably the biggest component of this is it's a language, and languages are hard to learn. And on top of that, it's pictorial language. So you're relying on graphic and visual cues to actually display a lot of the information. And that's been, one of the biggest pain points that we've seen as an industry is just drawing things correctly, knowing what you're drawing, why it's there, and then how are you translating a lot of heavy analysis, code requirements into those pictures, that language, those call outs, those notes, those schedules and tables, and creating kind of a complete language that actually makes sense when somebody turns around and tries to read it or bid the drawings.
Got it. Thank you. So following that, Simon, what do you see as the biggest inefficiency right now in this process?
It's nowadays, we have all, we have Revit, we're getting into walking through the models with MetaQuest and other Apple. But there's a lot of information, that we have to do manually still. We have to go read the codes and keep up with the codes. I know every year we go to courses, but it's hard to keep up with it. I was surprised when I was getting comments back from InspectMind that, oh, this has to be 3 inches now instead of the 2.5. I said, well, I didn't know that. And I go, and the good thing about InspectMind is that it tells you exactly where it's getting it from. So we go back to the code and read it. Okay. So the difficult thing nowadays is there's so much information that we need to know, and automating it helps. We still have to know the basics. InspectMind is not going to take the place of a plan checker, and like we get a new hire and we don't put them to do the programs or software. We'd have them do stuff by hand still because they have to know the basics.
Absolutely. Yep. Thank you. So Akash, tell us, as the founder of InspectMind AI, what is it that could be automated? What is it that AI can do for us?
Yeah, so our typical project that professionals check, it tends to be 100 to 200 pages of drawings, and within an hour, we have here's 100 issues we found across architect said X, engineer said Y, drawing says A, spec says B. Something doesn't meet. There's 10 different codes that apply. It doesn't meet this particular code. So it's like Simon said, it's not, and we've never kind of even marketed it as it's replacing any plan checker or reviewer or engineer, obviously, but it's a great very quick, efficient, affordable, automated review tool. So in addition to what you are doing as the architect or engineer or contractor, if in 1 or 2 hours, if you can have an automated review and here's 100 things, to look at and prioritized, and you can quickly go through those, and guarantee you're going to find stuff that you didn't think about or you missed. So it's a great like supplement, like augmentation. So the way firms are using us, it's a lot like bigger firms. They have their engineering teams, they have their QA teams as well. This is just augmenting that. But where it really helps is it's the drawing specs is a really big one. Drawings versus specs is a major use case. That's, I'd say, more with the architects and contractors. I think for engineers, the coordination issues are really cool. I mean, just so many examples where the architect says X, structural says Y, mechanical says Z, finding those issues now. And then obviously, like Simon said, the code issues. So I think for the AE side, those are really like the three big ones where it's very helpful. And we never promise that it's going to catch everything. We never position it as, it's going to be a complete, plan review, just the way, no human can guarantee they can catch everything on a project. Same thing with AI, but everyone has used it. They found a lot of useful things that they didn't catch in the manual review. And if it's, at the price point that we're at, it starts at $50 at that price point, and an hour to, it takes like 5 minutes to use it. You go have lunch, come back, here's 100 issues on your project. You can fix it. It's kind of a no-brainer at that kind of speed and price.
Yeah, for sure. So Akash, can you show us quickly how it works?
Yeah, sure. So let me, so I have my screen share. I don't know if you need to open it or something.
Sure.
Yeah.
We can see your screen.
This is our website. We've really made it as easy as possible. InspectMind AI, catch these mistakes before they get built, upload your drawing specs, codes, issues with evidence. Starts at $50. You just click this green button, you make your account, upload your plans, and run a check. So, okay, you upload your files, go have lunch, come back, and you get this. Here's 379 issues we found on this project. Then what happens is you click on an issue, and then so at the top level, these are the issues found. So you can look at it, and I just want to look at critical and high issues. Okay, narrowed it down. Let's say I just want to look at civil issues. I can look at different status. I can assign them to my team. But okay, let's go to like one of the issues here. There's a ADA ramp elevations. Basically, there's one part of this ramp W, where you have a 2.2% slope, and the requirement is it cannot exceed 2%. So in this table on one of hundreds of pages of drawings, it flagged this issue. This is a valid issue, that they would need to fix. Otherwise, your city plan checker may catch it, or worse than that, they build it and you get those like hospital ambulance chaser lawyers are going to come sue you for this. So, issue avoided by catching it with AI right now, right? There even clashes. Like there's an issue here where there's actually there's a physical clash between the water main and 12-inch RCP. And it also doesn't meet some vertical separation requirement that's in the drawings. So yeah, it's able to, very quickly, like most projects run in an hour, 2 hours. Like a huge project might take like a day, like a 1 million square foot project, that might take like a day to check. But these days, the average check, 100, 200 pages, it's done in like an hour, 2 hours. And, all these like useful issues, right? Discrepancies, geometric conflict, incorrect elevations, wrong labels. There's a gravity storm sewer design with a 0% slope. Obviously, you need it downhill, right, for the sewer to flow. So yeah, it's been very useful for a lot of customers to just run this automated review and then just go back and fix these things before permitting and construction. And then in doing that, you're doing less. Even as an engineer, you're doing less rework in your drawings and calculations when it comes to plan check, and you're spending less time answering 100 RFIs from the contractor later. So it's ultimately it's saving you time, improving your profitability, making you look better to your client. In fact, one of the really cool stories from the last couple of months is we had a architecture and engineering firm use this on a new church in California, 11,000 square foot new building, and we found a couple hundred issues. They had their 3 drafters go and fix every one of them. When they went into the permitting, they got 5 pages of comments on the whole thing. In California, that's like really hard. Like California, typical plan check is more like 50 pages of comments, not 5 pages. Although, Simon, I imagine Texas is a lot easier, isn't it?
Yeah.
Texas, yeah, but
Yes,
in
it is.
maybe 5 pages is normal in Texas, but in California, it's really abnormal.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you, Akash. Thanks for sharing. This was very helpful to see how InspectMind works. So, Colton, can you tell us about your experience working with InspectMind AI, or maybe some similar, AI tools in your process? So, where was it that it was working surprisingly well for you? And it's improved your process, and where is it that it's still struggling and you think you're facing like too many challenges? Tell us about your experience.
Yeah. It's been, I guess, background for me in AI. I'd say I'm probably an enthusiast. Like, I enjoy getting in there. I'm very up to date on the new models that are being built and how they're working well and how they're not working well. And one of the things that I was just affirmed by another AI guru, I'll say that's her title, is like it has to be built on the base of a good process in the company, whatever that is. And then on top of that, how can we automate that process? And then the tip of that has to be AI. So if we don't have those first 2 core systems in place as a company, the AI, whether that's InspectMind or pick out your favorite one, it just doesn't go very well because there's not good data for it. And so, as a firm, how are we setting up and training our team to even go about good calc packages and then good drawing production and then organizing everything in a logical way? So when somebody like InspectMind comes in to even look at our drawings, there's consistent flow. It's used to this type of document and documentation. And so whenever we started using this, I think we had a pilot for a very small concrete deck, and it was steel supported columns and then shallow foundations. So it was a very basic level, and I think everyone's going to probably dip their toe at first. I'm sure Akash can attest to that. Most people aren't going to put the 300 sheet drawing document their first time in. Maybe they will, and they're willing to invest that much. But that first time, I was really impressed that visually, kind of what was shown even in the demo is you get to see the list of issues, and then you get to see your drawing package with it, and then potentially the code reference or even a calc package associated to that. And so in real time, it was easy for, I would say, I was really excited for my junior engineers to be able to come in and go, oh, like this is how we're trying to connect the dots here, or this is what I didn't connect the dots between. And so, reinforcing a lot of the internal training that we're trying to do with them, it's just another avenue in which they can get a different perspective on it, especially if you get somebody who's entering into that project management level and they want to kind of take the reins a little bit on a project. This helps me, as the reviewing engineer, not have to spend 2 hours going over what we have already covered beforehand. So like that process is still in place, but now getting to have this first round of checks up front, they get to see that in real time, and then they get to make those corrections. And then on that second round, now I get to come in. And so I'm not spending that 1 to 2 hours coaching them again on this. And I'm not going to say that we exclude good mentorship, good coaching. That has to still be a part of the process. But I think this is some of that interim in there. And so that's what I've seen it do really well. On the not so well side, I think things that in general AI just can't do right now is kind of the graphical side. Just really struggles to understand pictures on page and really start framing out exactly what's going on. I think InspectMind, the AI checker, is growing in that. And I think as an industry, it's really interesting to see where we're headed from a construction document side. But still, most of it is largely text-based. I'm just grabbing text. It's got to be clustered near itself on the sheet. And so it would be really interesting to see where we head in the next 2 to 5 years, being able for it to actually visually see and guess what that member is, steel beam, bar joist, wood beam, and then make proper inferences based on that for the drawing package.
Got it. Very good. Thank you, Colton. So Simon, how about you? What was your experience, seeing this? Basically, how do you think firms should look at this AI and versus human relationship? So what parts of it is it still handled by humans, and what parts is it that InspectMind or other AI tools have been able to help you a lot with?
I see InspectMind as like a third-party reviewer. That's how I kind of told the office, this is just our third party. We have to do the same work, but at the end we'll have a better product. I also started, I think we had some design development drawings we're working on, a small 3-story building, I think a restaurant. I said, well, let's try it. Let's send it out. We got like 50 comments. I didn't expect a lot, but we got 50 comments back. Said, oh, okay. And at the end of that project, we submitted it again because the price is, the price is very good. And we got comments back. But when I submitted the first time, the design development drawings, it was just a structural. When we submitted it again, it was the plan check drawings. And I just submitted everything, mechanical, architectural, and it caught a lot of coordination issues. That's what I liked. That, these things are just not going to work here. I mean, this is interfering with this. So that's what I liked about it. And the graphical, yeah, it's an AI. It's like any AI program. You have to teach it. And one thing that InspectMind has, and it's time consuming for one, but in the long run it's helpful, is that each issue has, well, is it okay or is it wrong? It gives it a thumbs up or thumbs down. So if the comment doesn't make sense, and especially it doesn't catch a lot of the not doesn't catch, but it gets confusing with the drawings, like the graphics. So there we spend time and say, okay, yeah, let's say that's not the case, and there's a place to put a comment. It's not the case because of this and this. So, and we spend the time to do that because we want the program to helpful for us later and for everybody else. That, okay, yeah, it's learning. If you don't input that and take the time to teach, the AI is going to give you the same error every time. And like any program, it'll learn, and it's going to, in a few years, it'll be able to read the drawings.
Yeah, absolutely. So Simon, did you have any difficulty, I'm just curious, convincing and encouraging your team to start using InspectMind or other AI tools? Because it seems like you are the champion with your group. So like this issue of trust, because, we are still struggling. I hear it from practitioners all the time that, yeah, AI is good, but we still cannot trust it and all these things. So have you had any difficulty in your experience encouraging your team, or no, it's been like a no-brainer?
No, convincing them. No, it's like any program. It's time consuming and it's a learning curve. I mean, InspectMind, there's no learning curve. We have to, you get 50 comments. Well, there's one project we did. It's a $50 million project. I submitted the whole drawing as a new convention center here in South Texas, and we got 1,000 comments back from all the disciplines. So structurally, there was probably 100 comments. I mean, we have to spend the time, we have to go through them. We send it to the architect and the mechanical engineer. Did they look at it? I don't know. But I kind of skimmed through it to see, well, what is it going to affect structurally? And I brought it up a couple of times in the meetings. Hey, have you looked at this? Have you looked at that? And it's not my responsibility for them to use it. We just gave it like, well, hey, here's some comments. Look at it if you want to. But the long run, it's going to help you with avoiding RFIs with the contractor, avoiding change orders. I mean, that's nobody likes change orders, especially the owners. And if we can catch them beforehand, we just look better. And yeah, we like the other day I was here in Texas. I sent somebody to California to look at a 3-story concrete house that we're doing off of La Jolla. And we have been wanting to try it. The Meta Quest overlapping our structural model. And he's walking the side and I'm looking at it like if I was there, or other programs that we try to use. It's just a learning curve, and you have to be willing to invest the time and the money to make it work for you.
Definitely. Great, thank you. So Akash, now with you talking to your clients and talking to all the professionals around you, so do you think AI and InspectMind AI, for example, so is the main goal saving time and money for professionals, or is it like really optimizing the workflow and the way people do things and the way teams do things, fundamentally and overall? So what is your focus and what do you think is more important right now?
I think it's really the focus is on improving quality and saving money. And what I mean by saving money is every time you have to go and now update the drawing because of a plan check comment or answer an RFI because 2 different drawings said different things, all that takes up your time. And depending on how your billing structured, some of it may not even be billable time, right? If the owner would be like, well, those are your mistakes, right? So you have to fix them versus I'm going to pay you to fix them. So I think the other part is avoiding claims. Actually, the example that I showed where there was like a slope issue with one of the ramps, I mean, that becomes a lawsuit target literally that's one of the most common lawsuits in this country is like lawyers go around looking for ADA issues and the slope is 2.2%, not 2%. Okay, let's go sue them, right? So catching those kinds of issues, that's where we can really save like risk, liability, claims, money from firms that are just trying to be efficient and not spend all their money on like litigation and insurance claims. And I think from a workflow perspective, it's just the automated reviews super helpful. I mean, one of our customers, actually I have two really interesting customer stories. One is it's like a mid-sized firm, several hundred employees, and they do a lot of work for like retail chains, restaurants. They have to basically turn around the whole set in 2 weeks every time. Every time there's a new store, there's a new restaurant, cafe, they have a 2-week architecture and engineering 2-week. They're kind of a multidisciplinary firm. That's their timeline with these big customers. And I mean, how do you do a thorough review of that manually, across different states and jurisdictions? And even if it's the same brand, not every store looks the same. There's some different design, different layout, things like that. I mean, this is a game changer, right? Because like if you have to turn that project around in 2 weeks, it's only so much time you have, and this automated review is like a game changer in that workflow. But from a quality and risk liability perspective, I mean, one of the probably 5 biggest companies in the world is starting to use us. Actually, I think we already ran some checks for them. And this is like a multi-trillion-dollar company. There's only so many of them, so you can guess. But basically, they have an issue. This ramp slope issue is actually a really big issue for them because when they have ramps that are sloped more than they're supposed to be, and the workers are trying to move stuff, like the product might actually fall on the worker, and that's happened and become a safety issue, right? So some of these like things that look small, they can actually have much bigger consequences, and it's improving quality, reducing risk. Those are really, it's not really about the time saving. You know, I don't really focus too much on the time saving, because I think you still need to engineer the building. You still need to check your own work. But this is more of, you know, this isn't like replacing your own diligence or your own, you know, quality of work, but it is like, it is a useful automated review tool to help you reduce risk and liability and just improve quality overall.
Yep, for sure. Yep. So Colton, you mentioned data preparation and the importance of structural data once you start using AI and, like, for example, InspectMind. So I'm curious, how important are these like structured data, BIM models, you know, documentation and standards when you are implementing AI in plan review workflow? And can firms realistically scale AI workflows if project information and, you know, all this data is inconsistent?
If it's inconsistent, and if you as a firm or a team are not consistently giving good feedback, or even having good structured inputs beforehand, I mean, the AI checker, it's pretty simple. I think the team's done a really good job of saying, well, thumbs up, was this a good catch or a bad catch? Thumbs down. You know, even something as simple as that is helping produce a much better output for the future projects. And so I think really the only way you can help scale this is if you are providing some level of feedback. You know, our team has a premium license to an AI for our suite of even desktop providers. And so, you know, I tell them, you need to be interacting with the AI every time you use it, because that is teaching it, you know, what we desire from it every time. And so I think for specifically for plan checks, if you're not already having a good internal process as a company, and every time you upload it, it looks different, or it feels different, or it's in different orders, or the way that you presented the information was different. Like one time you used a schedule, but this time you're doing only call outs. You know, all of this is going to impact, at least from what I'm seeing, the effectiveness of AI. Going back to that, like, foundationally, it's a process. On top of that, how could you automate this a little bit? And then on top of that is that AI, the tip of the spear. And so that's internally what we're working really hard on right now, is how are we transitioning to an environment in which, like, we still have really good process, really good automation, but AI is a part of our workflow and every day. And so the team is actively using AI, whether that's some sort of LLM to chat about the project, understanding the notes that were taken on the last meeting, or in this case, you know, we're checking and being as complete as possible in our review process with it.
Yeah. Okay, great, interesting. So, Simon, in your experience, what was it that you did before starting to use AI and InspectMind, and like, what advice do you have for firms who are preparing to start this process?
Well, before we had to, it was a process of years. I mean, again, I've been doing this for 35 years. Any new hire, we don't tell them to start designing a 10-story building and using computers. I mean, they have, like I said earlier, they have to know the basics, and we started doing with hand calculations and drawing free body diagrams. They said, why? Well, with the free body diagrams, you have to understand where the loads are coming from and what the member is going to do. So AI is not going to teach you that. It'll unless you don't know the basics. So I was on a panel the other day, and I was telling them, you know, back when I started, when I was at school, we would use Fortran, and we would get the information by cards. You know, I was telling them, if you put in garbage, you're going to get out garbage, and that's still true today with new programs. If you put in something wrong, he's going to give you something wrong. But you have to know to be able to tell. You have to know the basics to know that it's giving you wrong information. Because the programs, AI, it's learning, and if we don't teach it and we don't know the basics, we can, and my profession, at least as a structural engineer, it's dangerous, and anybody that comes to work with me or training with me, I tell them any structure I design, I imagine my kids are going to go into that building. Is it safe for my kids to be in that building? If it's safe for my kids to be there, it's safe for anybody. But I think AI is never going to replace the education and experience of learning the basics. That's always, I think, has to be there. We just can't rely on programs or AI.
Yeah, absolutely. So Akash, you working with all these clients. So is there anything that you help them with before they start using InspectMind? Because InspectMind is a very user-friendly, very easy to use space, right? So is there anything that they have to do in order to be ready for using it, or in general, like AI? What do you think that companies that are listening to us and are planning to start it tomorrow should do today?
Yeah, well, we've intentionally made it as easy as possible. We wanted to go, against the norm in this industry where you have to book a sales call and go through this whole process and then, pay some big amount and then do some pilot and all that kind of nonsense, frankly, just so they can figure out how much money they can get out of you. We don't believe in that. We have a very simple website. You just use the website the way you use Google search. You don't have to talk to the founder of Google to ask, how do I use Google search? You just go to google.com and you type in your search and you use it. Same thing with InspectMind. You go to our website, you upload your PDF plans and you run a check. We've made it that simple and it's really working. I mean, I'm in the Pacific time zone before I even wake up. People all around the world are already, I wake up and I see, wow, all these interesting projects. We just checked the Formula One racetrack in Dubai. We checked a 1 million square foot facility in the United States. We checked, building for the NYU University campus in New York, schools, hospitals. I mean, all kinds of things. And like all that happens before I even get out of bed in the morning. So, and that's the beauty of just having a very simple product that people can just go to your website and use it the way you use Google, Gmail. You don't have to talk to like somebody at the Gmail sales team of, hey, can I get an account? You just go to the website, you create an account, and you start using it. And we want to, we've made it the same way.
Yeah, I like using InspectMind. But before there was InspectMind plan review, there was the report for the inspection reports, and we would tell Akash, well, we need this, or we better have this. Even with the InspectMind plan review, say, well, can we have this separated, or can we do this? And within a few days, he implements it on his program. It's available online already. So, that's a nice thing. That is not just a program that's fixed, and it's not, it's only going to give you certain information. You can ask the owner and say, hey, well, can we have this also in a different format, or can we add this? And they'll jump on it and work with it.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think maybe part of the reason, Akash, that you've built InspectMind as such a powerful space is that you are from the industry. So, our industry needs a lot of innovators like you that are coming from the industry. So they have lived the problems that you're solving, because not every company is like that, So there are a lot of not that they are doing anything wrong but there are a lot of innovators that are not from the industry, because this AEC is just, it's just so different from any other industry. The fact that it's very project based, this long life cycle of projects. There are all these things that are very unique. And I always see it as the reason that is the second least digitized industry in the world after fishing. So it's just so different. And then the fact that you are coming, so you said your dad, and then you have the structural engineering background, right? So that has made it very, I guess, useful, right, in your journey. Maybe you tell us how it has helped you building InspectMind.
Yeah, so I've grown up kind of at this intersection. My dad's a structural engineer. His dad was a civil engineer. Grew up my whole life seeing engineering, drawings, job sites, and I studied computer science. And so kind of this intersection of combining the two fields. So, because of that, like, for example, I've actually built like AE firms that have done over 10,000 jobs around the country. And because of that, I know what the problems are. Like I knew, hey, the site visit is a problem. Nobody likes writing these reports, so we built this field reporting app. Then I saw this, plan check is a big problem. How do you do quality control at scale? Because I saw my dad reviewing projects, and it's like there's only so much you can do. There's so much information. It's so dense, and so I think that background. Because of that background, I know the customer, I understand the customer, I speak the same language, understand what the real problems are, how these companies work, right? Like, so we're not, because of like the main thing is to know what to build, right? It's like to what to build and then to be able to build it, right? So I think like maybe what you were alluding to is like, there's people who don't have the domain who are trying to build stuff in construction tech, and they might know how to build it, but they may not know what to build, right? And here I think what's unique is that having kind of been the customer, right, as in like built like architecture, engineering firms, for example, like I know like here's a bunch of problems that firms have, and then we know what to build, and then we have to be able to build it well and then grow. So I think it's the combination of the two.
Yeah, exactly. Great, thank you. So we have about 3 more minutes. So Colton, I would like to ask you, how do you see the industry going? So let's say in the next 6 months, in the next 1 year. So where do you see it going? I'm sure there are going to be more and more AI tools and technology. So things are moving fast. So where do you see it going, and what your plans are and what your company's plans are to catch up with all this technologies?
Yeah, there's a couple of big themes that I'm seeing and that we're reinforcing. I think similar to what Simon was saying, garbage in, garbage out. I think we're going to see a lot more distinction. I think people who don't understand what they're doing and still using the tools, it'll become very clear that they don't know what they're doing. AI will amplify a lot of that. The other part, kind of the motto we live by with AI is own the output. And so just because you have a cool tool doesn't mean you get to say that cool tool is the reason it was wrong or that it didn't work. And so owning the output for the AI. And then the other part is security. If we as a company have any sort of NDA or any sort of copyright laws or any sort of disclosures that we have with clients, we have to treat any of our AI resources as if they were a third-party vendor that should not be or shouldn't be looking or having eyes on this, especially if they're training data or training models on that or training techniques on it. And so that's another part of this I don't think we've mentioned, but just being very strategic in how we're protecting our clients or the owners' rights and what we're expected of as professionals. And so making sure that we're also keeping a track on that. But I think in the next couple of years, I'm really excited to see what companies are going to excel at what they're doing. And then obviously a bunch are going to fall off kind of as all the funds dry up to sustain some of the resources there. So I think that's exciting on our end. And we're really doubling down on our Microsoft platform, and kind of that's how we operate our business inside of that. And so trying to be really strategic about planning the data and the processes and automations we currently have and what AI will do whenever we inject that into it.
Got it. Great, thank you. So Simon, how about you? How do you see this going and what your plans are to catch up?
Well, we're always trying to keep ahead of everybody. We have so many offices that just kind of just dedicated to trying the technology that's out there. Like I said, we're trying to meta quest and trying to incorporate our rivet model with the actual field. There's a name for it, but if my tech guy would know better. But again, we have to just, like I tell my guys or staff, it's just a tool. AI is just a tool, and we have to just be careful with it. I mean, it can't you. I mean, you have to have the knowledge, because if not, like I said earlier, garbage in, garbage out. And it's going to get better. We just have to teach it. We have to spend the time to, like I said, giving thumbs up, thumbs down to, for example, in InspectMind. Which other software had that we can, as the user, kind of give our input. But I think it'll just get better with time.
Yeah, definitely. So Akash, what is next for you?
Yeah, right now, honestly, we're just having a lot of fun. We're getting great customers, and we're making like 5, 10 product improvements a day. So
Wow.
literally, like you open you run it, use the product today, you use it like tomorrow or Monday, like you're already going to see differences. So that's kind of the speed we're moving at, is 5, 10 features improvements, every single day, and it just the pace has been a lot of fun. It's been a lot of fun just building. I mean, just as an example, one of the things that's been happening now is, say, one architect or one engineer from a company finds us. Actually, this just happened, in the last couple weeks. Like a senior architect at like a pretty good size, like several hundred employee firm, found us, ran a couple projects, like was very impressed. 2 weeks later, there are 15 employees at the company already. We had a call with the CFO of this company 2 days ago. They just, bought InspectMind for the company, like Tuesday of this week. And now it's all about like rolling it out across all the different disciplines, all the architecture, civil, structural, MEP, geotech, and all the coordination. And they're checking already, they just started and they're already checking multiple projects every single day. And that kind of, just for example, just a few days back, one of the biggest home builders in the country was checking projects with us. And then yesterday, they just referred another one of the biggest home builders, because they all know each other. So, they referred their colleague at another big home builder. Now they're using us too. And the best thing is now, since people can just come to our website and use it, I just, I'm outside, I'm having dinner, I check my phone, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, we just got there's some big new company already, using us, and then expand. And then one of the things that we do is, we're not doing any sales. I've just basically stopped doing sales calls. People just come, they use the website, and then I want their feedback. So I don't do like any selling, convincing, none of that. I think people know they have this problem, or they see our website. We do it well, we do it cheap, we do it fast, and we make it simple. And then I just spend my time listening to their feedback, what they like, what they don't like, and keep making 5, 10 improvements a day. So that's what Simon was saying. He had some requests. Can you do this format, that format? Two days later, it's done. Maybe same afternoon, it's done. Colton's seen the same thing. So in fact, when you're asking about some of the things that's coming up, Colton and I were literally talking about this, I think, last week. So Colton uses 2 of our products. Yeah, he uses and Simon uses both of our products. Both of them actually use our reporting, our site wizard, report generation app, and our plan checker. And basically, one of the things we were already thinking about, but I think Colton had like a kind of use case for it, maybe right away, where I was like, okay, maybe we just do it now. of like connecting the two together. So you run your plan check, and then let's say generates your checklist of, based on this project scope and drawing, here's the 100 things you should inspect. You load that into the inspection app, and then when you're doing your site visit, now you know everything. Maybe Colton, you want to, I don't know if you want to describe that better, but essentially tying those two together. So there's a lot of things, and it's really like, I know where all my time now, I'm always just listening to customers, what they like, what they don't like, ideas, feedback, and I'm personally shipping 5-10 improvements a day.
Amazing. Congratulations, Akash. That's amazing. So Colton, can you tell us a little bit about that? Because I remember InspectMind was initially a report generation app, right? And then you started adding all these features. So Colton, if you can just briefly tell us about that, that'd be great.
Yeah. So I was out on site doing some field observations for a project we designed, and right, that project was before we had got into the inspector. But I'm out on site and I'm using the report generator, and it dawns on me, like, while I'm doing this, wouldn't it be nice if during this process, you have to go out and do your observations anyway. So could we connect these two together, because the checker is going to go through your drawings and it'll know what materials are on there, what different design elements are included. So what if we could tie those together and shift that over into the report generator, and now you get some eyes up front before you go out on site, and it's pre-populated. I love to use the 80-20 rule. It's going to hit 80% of the items. The other 20% that are hard, you get to focus on those, but it's already got that first draft built out for you, whether that's the foundations, the framing, any special items or miscellaneous items. And now, instead of you spending that time either building it out up front, or especially if it's somebody who's not as experienced, they're getting that kind of a kickstart to that first process. And so that was the thing, is I literally got back from the site and I was like, hey, I just had this idea, let me, what do you guys think? And then within less than an hour, they were like, love it, do you want to pilot this for us and test it out? And I was like, let's do it. So
That's awesome.
I'll definitely shoot on InspectMind. Their support team has been great. I don't know what you guys are doing, but it's been some of the best that I've had from a software side. So appreciate that, and keep it up.
That's amazing. I love it. I love how this feedback loop has been so effective, and yeah, that's just great. That's just the best way to work. I was at this event recently, I was giving this talk, and then someone asked me if we should start testing and using all these tools and technologies that are out there, or if we should wait for this big company to acquire all of them and then we test them. And then I was telling them that, no, of course, we have to start using all these great tools, because the feedback, what you just mentioned, that is now, so this feedback that you share with the technology, it's extremely valuable. And then I love how InspectMind was so quick and incorporating and then adding all those features. That's great. Okay, awesome. Thank you all so much for joining today. So do you have any final comments, final thoughts, or insights? Okay, so if not, we can wrap up. Thank you again, Simon, especially you joining us from the road. We really appreciate it. So hopefully it's not too hard. Yeah, this was very insightful. Thanks for sharing all your experience. And then, yeah, keep up the great work. Thank you for moving the industry forward. And I look forward to our next conversation in the near future. Best of luck and have a great day.
Thank you.
Thanks everyone.
Okay, thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.